It's like that's trying to pay a coin.
Oh, yeah. Was there a problem?
No.
Maybe it's just delayed by all the roadworks.
The traffic is not pleasant.
Far away, so very busy.
Oh,
No.
Are you on? Right. Well, good evening, everyone.
evening.
Welcome very much on this Tuesday evening to this meeting of the Planning Committee. Woodley Town Council meetings are now recorded, with recording streamed live and stored on the Town Council's YouTube channel. By virtue of attending this meeting, you consent to having your image and audio recorded for this purpose. If you do not wish for your image and audio to be recorded, then please don't stay for the meeting. Maybe that's why Bill's not here tonight. For those in attendance, we're not expecting a fire drill, but if you do hear the alarm, please head to the nearest fire exit and congregate at the fire assembly point, which is just outside the front of the Open Centre here. Right, do we have any apologies this evening, please, Matthew?
Yes, we have apology from Councillor Bragg.
Very much. Right, do we have the item 2, declarations of interest? Anybody got any declarations of interest this evening? Okay, thank you. Right, the minutes of the Planning Community Committee meeting held on the 29th of August. Does anyone have anything to mention about those minutes? Excellent. So I hope you would have sent them all through. I shall sign those after the meeting. Thank you very much. But item 4, we'll go to current planning applications and we'll go straight to page 17. I'm pleased to say tonight I've left my paper clip in place, so hopefully we won't have any chaos. So we will start on planning applications. First of all, 231646 20 Pitts Lane, Early. This is an adjoining parish consultation. This is a full planning application, proposed erection of a single-storey front extension. Has anybody got any comments or points to mention on that one? Okay, thank you very much. 232033, The White Cottage, Western Avenue. Full application for proposed erection of single-storey side extensions. Has anyone got anything on this one? Okay, thank you very much. 232089, 27 Anthony Close. Householder application for proposed erection of a single-storey rear extension, conversion of existing garage. Anybody got anything on that? Right, thank you very much. 232172, 6 Woodlands Avenue. Application proposed erection of a first floor side extension. One assumes the ground floor side extension is already there.
I think does that make sense?
Do you want to bring those up, Matthew?
I have a look at to do that.
Thank you, Jim.
There's the existing elevations. We have that is the door right there. And if we slide on down, that is the proposed dormer there. I believe that is the chimney breast there. So yeah, that seems to be all it is.
Okay. And top view from the old top view, we'll see the new top view on the right hand side.
Sorry, you. Oh,
Yeah.
The block plan.
Yeah. It's a bit big, isn't it?
So yeah, so the only area that they're doing is that and that.
Yeah. Okay, any comments? No? That's fine, thank you very much. 232231, 124 Kingfisher Drive, householder application, proposed erection of a single-storey rear extension. Changes to fenestration. Has anyone got any points? Yes. Thank you. Right, that's that then. We now go on to item 5, planning decisions. No information on decision notices received from the planning authority. This is page 18 of your notes. You want me to go through them one by one? Fine. Right, so none have been refused. None have been withdrawn. So I start that again, right, read the top. Withdrawn, no determination made by working the Borough Council. We've had none of those. Refused, contrary to the Town Council's recommendation, none. And again, refused, none endorsing the Town Council recommendation. Right, so the nitty-gritty, approved, contrary to the Town Council's recommendation. So 23, 16, 25, 12 Manor Way, household application, proposed conversion of existing loft to create habitable accommodation to include one dormer plus changes to fenestration. Has anyone got any things we want to discuss on this?
I believe no, I think it was a single parking space, I believe. Yes, so the plans indicated one single parking space in the current and in the new property, and the additional habitable room upstairs, we said would not mean there's enough suitable parking.
Wow.
The planning officer, I think I read the decision notice, and the planning officer basically said highways came back with no concerns. So this makes no sense.
Okay, thank you. 230, approved, endorsing the Town Council recommendation. Sorry, 230297, 83A Loddon Bridge Road. Application to vary conditions 2 and 3 of planning consent for the proposed erection of a single detached dwelling. Condition 2 relates to the approved details, and condition 3 relates to external materials. And the variation is to allow the enlargement of the ground floor footprint at the rear, plus the insertion of 2 number roof lights in the front elevation and a change to the colour of the roof tiles, which is retrospective. Anybody got anything they'd like to comment, add?
Intent us to note the approved.
Okay.
They're matched exactly what we.
Oh, fine. Okay. Anyone happy with that? Just to approve all those ones then?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try for him to go through them. Item 6, telecommunications notification. Oh, right, yes, this has had a lot of interest locally, because this is in my ward, and it's been a lot on social media as well, and some local residents have been putting notes through doors and all sorts of things. So this is to note application 232081, Loddon Vale Practice, Headley Road East, the prior approval submission for the erection of the 20-metre high slimline monopole with all the antennas and cabinets. Matthew, can I ask, why is this on the agenda when we discussed it last time and had our points there?
So the application last time was from a non-statutory consultation put in by the telecoms company through their consultancy. This is the formal prior approval application that goes to Working Borough Council, and any prior approval application for any site in our area, we get notified of. As it's prior approval, it's not consulted on because it's not about comments, it's about whether the person has prior approval to build on that land or not. But Woking notify us on that notification letter. It simply says, this is not for consultation, this is being sent for your information only. So as with other telecoms applications and prior approvals that are sent here separately, that is the process, and they've always been brought here to note that we have received those.
Right, okay.
Just a bit.
So hang on a second, Jim, sorry. So we are noting this, and whatever we say won't have any effect on the outcome.
There is advice from Woking Borough Council that any planning application that is on their system or any system in the country can be commented on by anybody, and the authority would normally read those and take those into account. But as it is not statutorily open for consultation, they don't have a duty to do so.
Okay.
So you can make comments.
Yeah.
Whether or not they are taken on board is another matter. I can tell you from the official consultation period posted on their website, which will be for the people who might be statutory consulted, it's the 26th of September.
Okay, which is next Tuesday. And now, yeah, I think we should discuss it because there's been a lot of concern. Jude.
Just to sort of go through the background here of this. You could, under the national planning guidelines, these masts, if they're below 20 metres, it's expected that they will go through. And the only comments I think that are valid planning comments about the siting and the kind of layout of the kit, basically. But it's almost like telecoms masts now. They're a utility like electricity or sewage. You know, it's something that we have to have. So the assumption is, you know, it will be approved unless you can come up with a valid reason not to. And if you remember when we had it up last time, I did ask a question. Given that this is a prior approval, what's the process, and will the people who live nearby get any visibility of it? You know, before somebody turns up with a digger to dig a hole, and we weren't sure at the time. So I contacted people locally just to let them know this is going on. It's come up, don't know if you've seen anything about it, and it turned out that actually the company concerned had contacted people, and they'd already started to send things in, particularly the people in Headley Road East who, you know, weren't happy about it. And I did meet up with some of them on site and, you know, explain to them the kind of context of all this. And I said, it will be difficult to balance this, but that's not a reason not to exercise your right to do that. And so that's indeed what they did. And if you're, again, last time Keith was here, and I've spoken to Keith about it, as it's his patch on the borough, and then he'd kind of help people to understand how it is that they could register an objection to it. Because I did ask him whether it was possible for them to list it at Wokingham, so that instead of it being dealt with by officers, it went to the planning committee, and apparently it wasn't eligible for that because it is a prior approval thing. So the only kind of remedy to people is to send in their objections, which, you know, I think the people who are particularly exercised about it have done.
Okay.
So essentially, the role that you play in this is just to tell people what the process is and how they can exercise their right. But as I say, the planning guidelines nationally are predisposed to approve such things.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we are. So,
well, thank you.
I think last time we, when it came in for the consultation from the company concerned, we did register our views about it being unsightly.
I think we stated an opinion that we would rather it near a higher, taller buildings, and also if it were to be located there to be camouflaged rather than
That's the thing. So logically, I thought we'd reiterate that and send it back to Woking for what it's worth.
Can we do that? Jack, please. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else anything on that? Right. Okay. Item 7, tree preservation orders. Note that you read all those, digested. General transformation matters. Consider report PC5 23 relating to Woodley Cycle. Woodley Cycle? Relating to cycling Woodley. This is on page 21. So, who would like to make a comment? You.
I read this. Somebody looked shed loads of work. So why have we stopped? And why have we carried on with it? Yeah, before my time. But I don't quite understand why we stopped.
Anybody else? Carol, Councillor Jewell.
Could offer an explanation for that. I think what's needed is some form of leadership on this one. And what's happened in the past with working groups is the chairman of that working group actually make sure that things are being done as per the meetings and bring up new ideas, etc. This just hasn't happened for several years. Now, I have been involved in it, for political reasons, wasn't allowed, but I think that is the essence of the issue. And as June said, there's an awful lot of work being done. I remember doing a lot of work in developing a strategy. And I think that's the main thing we've got to look at tonight, is whether to formally adopt a cycling strategy. But my fear is that even if we formally adopt it without some sort of leadership on this, then I think it's there, but it's going to fall by the wayside.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Anybody else got anything they want to add to that at the moment?
I think everybody else got a view, because we kind of wound up the cycling subcommittee, but having found this stuff, which we didn't have available to us, it occurred to me that there's a lot of work to get it kind of going again.
Right.
And I feel as though we ought to have a cycling strategy. It's all part of our green agenda.
Well,
Yes, I'm just thinking, why do we need one? What would we gain from having one, as in more work, and maybe it won't be supported? Is there a specific need for it at the moment? At the moment, maybe in the future there might be, but I struggle to think what we would do or what we would propose or what would happen. Bearing in mind it kind of disappeared before. So if we're going to go forward and discuss maybe having one, what form would it take?
Well, perhaps what do you mean, having a strategy or having a subcommittee?
Having a subcommittee in the first place and then going on.
Well, I think,
How would it run?
I mean, there's a strategy, and then there's loads of stuff in here. It's like, why would you not do it? And I think we ought to sort of tie it all in with what's happening at borough level as well, and the whole My Journey thing and what have you. In terms of the subcommittee, again, you know, this might be a bit subversive, but I understand we've got standing order that says who can go on a subcommittee. In terms of, to me, it makes sense. Why don't we have some people who are interested in cycling on the subcommittee? So, you know, Carol, for starters, but I mean, certainly in our group, I mean, Yvonne is very keen on this as an idea. So that's the thing. Perhaps that's, you know, we need to work out who are the best people to be on it, and then work out what we have to do for the standing orders to make that happen, because that's the way around it should be.
I'm feeling a bit awkward sat in the chair because I've got a million things I want to say. My points of
Are you
view.
allowed to?
Well, I am, aren't I? Yes, I am. But I don't want to be heavy-handed Bob at the front, okay? And so I've got a billion things going on here. So if I just sort of come out with everything that I've been thinking about, because I didn't know I was going to be here tonight. I thought I was just going to be sat over there. I was going to wait and listen to what people said and hopefully come up with some of the thoughts I've had about it. So Carol mentioned about the subcommittee. So the subcommittee was formed in 2019. I went on it in 2021 when I came in halfway through the term, and I was elected as chairman for a meeting in 2021, and then we had a meeting in 2022. At one of those meetings, I gave everybody something to do. Two of those people there said, I don't know anything about cycling, which is Carol's point. Carol, I'm sure you were on one of those videos, weren't you?
I've never been there with you as chairman.
So you weren't on any of those videos at all? Because, and the other thing is, June, they're all, and I'm happy for this to be like a discussion, okay? The other thing, those videos, those subcommittees, but there's no real formal minutes. There's no real accountability. Now, if you go through all these wonderful things here, some of this is, well, it's all pretty good stuff. But nothing's happened. I don't think any of these things, Carol, have come to fruition, have they?
Yes, Alex did a lot of work on cycling stands and places to park your bike. I certainly had a discussion with the Reading Cycling Group and just been working in the background basically. It's my only choice on getting some facilities for cycling in Woodley. I've been involved with the LCW consultation on that, but that seems to have Sorry, was that that's in the local cycling and walking infrastructure plan. That's devising places, facilities for cycling and walking. It's active travel agenda. So I've been involved in all of that ever since I was, to be honest, then ladies. And we should be putting on the working groups, people that have got the know-how and capable of
Interest. Yeah.
that would be interesting.
Now, Carol, you weren't at the planning meeting when I proposed and we closed down the subcommittee.
No.
Then at the branch council, then at the full town council meeting, you brought a proposal to make sure we kept on environmental walking, cycling, etc., which was agreed. And to be fair, well, to be fair, it's one thing to say. And you mentioned that you thought it had been closed down a little bit heavy-handedly, perhaps. My whole point of closing the subcommittee down was because it wasn't doing anything. And I was keen that we brought it into this group where it's much more accountable. We have many more members here. We can bring in anybody we like to come and talk about things and action things for it. Sorry?
You can do that in the working group, you could invite anybody.
Yeah, we weren't though, were we?
No.
It didn't happen. We had somebody come, I think the first meeting I was having, we had somebody from Working Council did a talk actually. So it wasn't to close it off. So my thoughts are, you ought to agree it or not, that we don't specifically have a cycling group. We don't specifically have a cycling agenda. We have highways issues. We have a speed awareness group. So why do we not just have a transportation heading? And we have that at every single meeting, not just quarterly, because 3 months down the line, if we come up with an idea tonight, is a long time. And none of us might be here at that meeting. We might be all at Christmas parties and there could be another group of people here talking about it. So I think we should have it on every planning agenda as a heading, nothing to discuss, we move on. If there's something we can do. Last week, knowing we were coming out of this, on my cycle rides on Sunday and the previous Monday, I went out on my bike and I was out for 50 minutes and I went and took photographs all around Woodley of various cycle infrastructure that's in place. And you can all have a copy of these to see what's there. All of that has been provided by Woking Borough Council. I've also got Tinternet, and this is Reading Borough Council, and this is just a screenshot which I photographed of Woodley. And in the brown of all the cycle routes in Woodley, none of them join up. None of them go anywhere. And please all take a copy of that home with you as well. So should we, if anyone wants to say anything, please put your hands up. Should we as a group oversee cycling in Woodley and pass it on to the powers that should be doing it? Woking Borough Council, Sustrains, Reading Borough Council. I hope everyone knows what Sustrains is. It's a charity that promotes transportation, cycling, etc., walking, different means of transport. And they run, so on the top of this map, you'll see we've got Route 4 goes through. Route 4 is a cycle path from Pembroke, I think, to London. And we should be following these up. Some of these photographs here are examples. At the end of Welford Road, I don't know if you can see it, there's a blue sign on a post. What does that mean? What's the point of that being there? Again, also in Welford Road, there's some give way markings on the path. That means nothing. And over at the end of Sanford Lane, Sanford Lane, you come at Sanford Lane, it says end of route. It's a bus stop and a curb. What do? Fly? So I think these are the sort of things cyclists and people interested should be following these up, reporting back to us as a committee, and then we should be shouting at the people that need to do it. There's a bridge from Commons Moor. How do you get a bike over steps? Southlake, did you know Southlake you can't cycle around?
I think that we have a responsibility as a town council to have a view on cycling in the year, and we should be best placed to, if not finding all the needs ourselves, seeking them out. I think that's what our role is. And to that end, I think step number one is we should have a cycling strategy. If only, it should only be a few sort of bullet points really about what it is we feel we should be doing to further and facilitate cycling. Actually, that's what it is, isn't it? It's people who would like to cycle, facilitating that. And I think also we should be advertising, if you like, what we already do. Because when I started to route around, there's all sorts of cycling stuff that goes on from this building. And there's opportunities within the area for it, like in primary schools, that there are cycling courses that people do. I don't know whether people are all aware of this, but if you go on to our website, put cycling in, there's not much there. And so if I was a local, well, I am a local resident who was kind of interested in cycling, so what's the town council doing for me? It doesn't look as though we're doing anything at all, and yet that's not actually right, because there are things that are going on, but I think there's more that we can do. So interestingly, you're drawing with the cycling routes on. There are national routes, and if you go onto the Woking site, you can tap in, I want to travel my bike from A to B, and it'll give you a route. I must say the route that I just tried one from the early station to Bulmer School. I thought, well, I wouldn't go that way. I wouldn't send the kids up the main road like they're suggesting. So they're the sort of things that we know locally that actually, no, I wouldn't send a child up the Woking Road and along Church Road on a bike. There are much safer ways of doing that. So it's having those sorts of things available to us. And again, talking to Yvonne, just chatting a while ago, she was saying, I've got a really good route into Reading, which takes you off the road most of the time, and it's got a lot safer. Again, they're the sort of things that we can publish and make available on our site in much the same way as the circular walks that we've done for the walking, which, excellent. Little resource there for people.
Okay, but should we? Because is it not covered by Woking Borough Council or Reading Borough Council?
Why are we here then, Ron? I mean,
I
if
don't know.
we're always looking
Okay,
to say, oh, well, somebody else can do that, what are we for? Why are we here? I thought the idea was, we live here, we're part of the community, and people are paying their rates, this is something that people would value.
Okay.
So,
But in this case.
Pop into first.
Because in this case, at least we can put request to the Wokingham Council. Whatever our decision from our council, local council, Woodley Council. Yes, we need this one, and we need to provide, and we need to start, and how we can serve what they're saying was their decision, and where we are now, and then we can say whatever good stuff we have. You can see now there's a lot of good stuff from 2019. I can see, I read already. There is a lot of it's going on, but nothing is at the, and there is no, like, I don't know why they make any decision or why we can't start. And especially when we can get the reviews or the people's review on the local website as well, it will help us we can forward a request to the borough, so at least we can get a.
Yeah, grand. Carol, Joan, let's Carol come in, please.
Yes, all those things you mentioned earlier, what was said many years ago on one of the first few meetings of the working group. It's nothing new. They're still there. They're still a problem. So we keep talking about it, and it just does need some sort of leadership on that, and to actually get motivated and take it forward. The one thing that sticks out every time we talk about it is that we do need better signage. If we had signage, and that was one of the things on the strategy, to say to people, go this way, we get right, this is safe. To call a safe route, there's nowhere is safe. It needs to be joined up, which was what we've been saying for a long, long time. If you're going to get from various places, you need to be able to get there safely rather than all of a sudden not having anywhere to go. It's getting involved at the planning stage. The example of the Carpenter's estate, we've got the cycle path all the way down to Avenue, but you have to stop at each road junction, there's 3 of them. And if they'd actually given the cyclist priority there, that would be a really good cycleway, but it's not. And the shared paths that we get, so-called cycleways, they're just wider paths. There's no signage on road asking people to be considerate and to be aware of pedestrians, etc. The line down the middle might just help people stay apart, or at least know which side they should be on. That doesn't happen. We don't get involved in the consultation on the LC width. This council just complains against it and objects to any cycling improvements that want to happen. If June sounds frustrated, I'm quadruply frustrated that trying to get something done as a cyclist before somebody's killed, let's do something about it. And we don't, tonight we've been quite quick. If we had our usual number of applications, we would be looking at the cycling issues about 9 o'clock. I look around the members of this committee, half of them aren't interested because they don't cycle. Fair enough, that's all right. But we need those people that are interested to get involved. So if I sound frustrated, but I am.
No, I really appreciate it. Hang on a second, Jim. Ben, were you waving your pen around? Or
Sort
did you want
of,
to say something?
thank you, Chair. I'm just going to point out, looking at some of the notes from the previous working groups, is money an issue? Because looking at some of the notes, 3 million to put a particular route from Twyford to Woodley, 3 million is a lot of money. Has money been an issue? Is it?
Well, but Carol mentioned signs. I actually did find one sign, and it was in Nightingale Road. What was it? School close, is it? That new estate, School Drive, opposite there. And I followed this route to see where it went to. And it was, of course, as Carol said, it runs out. And there was a sign, and I took a photo of it, and it says Woodley Bournemouth School, and the other direction is Early. Now, I don't believe us as a council can say, let's put a sign on this junction without planning permission, without high-risk consultation, and obviously buying the sign. And doing that sort of thing costs thousands and thousands of pounds. So perhaps, okay, Jim, perhaps as a committee, or as a group, or however we come forward, we should be highlighting these things, in fact, actually,
It doesn't stop there.
and then following it on to working in council. And why haven't you done it?
But it doesn't stop there. It's actually go in School Drive and turn one.
Well, no, I meant if you come from the underpass and then head up the side of Drovers Way, it then dives off on that route.
So we're sitting here having a discussion about detail.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is we haven't even got a framework to have this conversation. And I think something that, that I've kind of learned since May is that if you want to affect change and you want to influence stuff, you've got to be a little bit more professional about it. And particularly in the sort of planning, in this planning area, again, we send stuff back, comments on planning that are not actually valid or can be taken account within the legislation. So we kind of need to understand the context of stuff and this having a strategy is kind of part of that. Now you will have noticed, all of you, won't you, that a lot of the other parish councils are investing in creating their own neighbourhood plans. A very expensive and long drawn out activity, but clearly they believe that there is a payback to them in this. Personally, I think it'd probably be over-egged probably because we are a suburban authority and people like Ruscombe and what have you, they've got loads of fields that, Wimpy are probably drooling over as we speak. So they've got skin in that game. But why I'm mentioning that is they are creating a framework in which they can then post stuff there, like in planning, within the constraints, and actually promote things that they do like. And I think in the same way, if we want to promote cycling in Woodley, which we do because we agreed that at the last full council, we have to set ourselves up as a strategy that we can all sign off and agree on And then that gives us some heft when we're asking for borough or whomever to help us with things, to say, this is the strategy of people at Woodley, you know, democratically elected, who agreed this, and this is our framework to start. So rather than get exercise at the moment about how and all we do stuff, I think step one is to read what it is that we think we should, you know, falls within our ambit and what is reasonable. And I don't think it's unreasonable to say that as a town council, we would like to have a network of negotiable cycle paths across Woodley for common journeys that people take. And also, you know, we have an interest in working with people in Reading, Early and wherever, you know, to link those things up, to facilitate that. And Carol's right, I'm not particularly interested in cycling because I'm just, you know, for on the bike. I am interested in cycling though from a green point of view. And again, this council has a policy, you know, around that and a view around, you know, climate change and what have you. This is all connected. So this to me is a big hole for us that we haven't got just a stated, almost a list of stuff that we think we need to do in Woodley to encourage cycling. And that's all the strategy is to start with.
Right, well, okay, well, taking that point on, Carol, could you go through Appendix C, which was a Cycling Woodley Working Party Grant Action Plan Strategy? I'm assuming this is something you were on at the start. Am I wrong?
I know the strategy, so yes.
Appendix C of the fourth one. So, June, this touches on some of your points because it is a list of things. Now, Carol, if you speak before I do, go on, please.
What I was going to say before that, so you might know, we have got a neighbourhood plan, it's called Vision 2020, which I developed back in the 1980s, I think. And in fact, one of the things on the working group I was trying to find just now, suggested that we look at that Vision 2020 to check to see if what was said there about cycling walking has actually been done. So that Vision 2020 has got a vision of how Woodley should be.
Should we say no now then? Should we say no now?
And that looked at areas that we wanted to preserve. It looked at places where we could take development. It looked at places where we need sustainable development. The council has got a copy of that. I have it on my old computer. so
Kevin's confirmed we have got it.
It's a living plan, it's not one that's been, you
It
know,
has been adopted by working borough.
Okay.
But
we haven't had a referendum.
no, we don't have to.
No, that's fine, right, yes, they do.
Okay.
So what else did you want?
I was going to say, if you wanted to go through the Appendix 5C, because none of that we've done, and you've mentioned earlier about having leadership on it and whoever might be that leadership person. The other thing I'm thinking of, as a committee, it's all very well for us to sit here and say to the officers, please can you do this, please can you do that. I'm also painfully aware that they have things that the legislative things they have to do, and is that the best use of their time as well? That's just something else to throw into the mix. I'm going to suggest that we talk no later than 9:15 on this. Is that okay? Just put a time limit on this for tonight.
Carol, we're in a position to put the strategy back in front of us in the next meeting, and we'll agree a strategy.
Well, I think we've got the terms of reference, which presumably would be a good start. We'll go down to the subcommittee. My feeling is that the things that we probably could, not pick wins, but they would be wins, would be to get better signage, because we're not talking about huge amounts of money. We could ask working borough to provide those. We've got some civil money that we could use. I think we definitely need to link up some of these hard parts. They won't be linked physically, but signing them would help. Shared paths, to have signs on those about cyclists being considered for pedestrians. again, that's not an expensive option.
Can I ask you to pause a second, Carol?
Yeah.
So could we then say, could we ask the officers to write to Woking Council, please? And could we ask them to revisit all the cycle paths and routes as marked out on their documents and ensure that all the white lining, the white pictures and all the white lines are up to date? Because, for example, if you look on Donaldson Way, there's not a single white, there's nothing to say it's a cycle lane.
It's not white lines anyway,
Welford Road's got some.
I think.
Yeah, I've got a picture of one as well, gosh. So they should be, and they're faded. The same on Glendevon Road. Again, they're missing the white things there. So as a committee, could we agree that? Could we ask them?
I think it's a bit sort of pram. I think we need to start off first with what it is we're trying to achieve. Then you can write to Woking and say, we've got a cycling strategy, this is it, we've reviewed all your paths, and we've got this list of remedial work that needs to be done. Rather than sort of scattergun, you think.
Does that need to go to Woking or the strategy and resources?
That would go to Woking,
Whatever.
to Woking issue.
But the key thing is that we're not going to Woking in an aggressive way. The idea is we're all trying to improve cycling. So we just need to work out, the most effective way of doing that. So, I mean, it's not really writing to Woking and saying, do this, this and this. It's could we have a chat? Because we've got an issue.
June. If, Carol just said, we've been looking at the 1980s, 40 years ago. We've had a strategy of something.
That was the vision.
That's a vision. So we've had Vision 2020, we've had this going on since 2019 with ideas. So we've got a strategy in the list, but we still haven't done anything.
Well, we have got a strategy because at all the meetings that we've talked about this, you said we haven't got a strategy.
Well, it says strategy on it.
Yes, but where is that published? And there was actually, when we talked about it, it was all like, oh, we don't think we agreed it. So, and nobody can find a minute to say that we did. This is just sort of.
This was brought, so then just to go back to the meetings this was provided as a draft a couple of times to the cycling subcommittee. Yeah, and obviously it came through the beginning, and a lot of them is referred to as draft action plan slash strategy. Presumably, because I think the wording at the top of it is more a strategy statement, a strategy to communicate, collaborate, and educate our local communities to improve, facilitate, and encourage cycling would be. Whereas everything else underneath is more of an action and an action plan, like our climate emergency action plan that you would tick off, as opposed to what I think as an officer I would determine as a strategy document, which would be your kind of overarching aims rather than actions. But because I believe of COVID, because it was coming at that beginning of 2020, it never then came through, and planning and community had asked for it to come be reviewed and never came back and was never formally adopted as a strategy. But I know the action plan was brought to the meetings last year as a way of checking what work had done against that.
I mean, again, it's sort of back to front, isn't it? You start off with the strategy. Once you've got a strategy and say it shouldn't be a massive long run, then you work out how do we achieve these things.
Okay.
Strategy, and you turn that into an action plan. But in the same way that the climate emergency action plan was not visible on our website, and neither is this. So step one is let's legitimate this by having a proper strategy, getting it signed off here. Then it goes to full council, bang, that's out, whack it on the
Whack, like that.
onto the website. Because the other thing about this is all going on in closed room here. I mean, I doubt the population would be glued to their sets watching this. We need to publish this stuff so that our residents can hold us accountable. So, you've agreed the strategy, you've agreed these actions, or what you've done about it.
Okay.
And I think this also ties into our, which was decided elsewhere, so I didn't hear the discussion around it, about making our town meeting a bit more meaningful next year. This is a brilliant thing that we could cover off in the town meeting, and that's our opportunity for getting feedback from people who actually, cycling actually matters to. We've got all sorts of opportunities to make a difference here without actually necessarily having to spend millions of pounds on building a cycleway to Twyford. You know, there are lots of things we can do, and I think we should be looking at that. And actually, you know, suggesting that we drop down to Woking and ask them to spend loads of money when they're taking our rubbish bins away, you know, like, let's get real, people. We need to do the sort of, not necessarily easy, but the straightforward stuff first. And if that involves us as councillors, you know, pushing a shift in, well, I kind of thought that's what we were here for.
June, yes, I agree with everything you said. Carol,
Yes.
could you write a strategy for the next meeting?
Well, I'm just writing a heading. The strategy, I think, might take a bit longer, but if Matt feels that which isn't a strategy, it's an action plan, as you're saying, which is why it's called action plan strategy. We've got those words at the top. This is on page 32, which says the strategy to communicate and collaborate with community. You know, improve, facilitate and encourage cycling woodley. And I'm just adding to that, in particular, there's a need for better signage, more joined up cycling facilities, and a forum in which to bring together interested organisations. But that's just very roughly, and it may just get us started. Could give that's words what I can repeat.
Okay, thank you. Linda?
Where does the money come from?
Well, this is what I was saying earlier, you know, it's, we need to look at what we are responsible for, what we think we're responsible for, what we should be chasing the council for, or other groups, or where we can get any funding, should we need to do so. But
We have a lot of SIL money on Kevin probably.
could you explain what that is, please, Karen?
Sorry, yes, community infrastructure levy money. We've not got that much spare at the moment. We did allocate a chunk of it last week, but there is more coming on online in the future. I think the thing about the costs is perhaps at the moment we don't know what they might be, and until we've established that, then we can take a bit of a view on, you know, whether they're things that the council thinks Woking should be doing as part of that, or whether it's something we can do. We've got a mechanism to do that, so that's not something that holds up things. Obviously, massive capital projects would be something very different, but the sort of things that we've talked about so far and here would be within.
Linda?
Okay, and if we can do this for Cycling, when can we consider doing a shop mobility scooter scheme for the elderly and the disabled in the town?
Absolutely. And if we're doing that, can we do something about the pavement on the corner of
Oh, yes, please.
Beechwood Avenue?
I've been down that a few times.
With a wheelchair, but anyway,
Okay.
can I just roll us back, because, you know, we, some of us newies were sent off on the, you know, good council, of course. And what was a revelation to me is our council is not the borough council, everybody else. We can do anything we like, really, if we've got the approval of our residents to do it. So, as I say, I'm not suggesting you go and spend 3 million quid on a half Twyford. Why would we want to get a Twyford anyway? But I'm saying that we shouldn't be constraining ourselves before we start it. And as I say, step one is we have a pithy strategy about what we're trying to achieve. Then we turn it into some stuff, and then we work out what we can and can't afford. And that's one of the reasons why we need to be using things like the town meeting, because we're sitting here thinking, oh, that would be quite a good idea, or this would be fine. We need to be talking to people and working in a structured way to say, look, we can do this, 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 and this. This costs money. If we had to do this, we would probably, you know, get working to help with that, but we actually need this on top of that, and that would mean, you know, 50p a week on your council tax. But that's the kind of grown-up sort of conversation we need to have with our residents. Yeah.
Okay. Right, I think we've had a good discussion. I think we've brought out passion and feelings on this. So, Carol, are you okay to write a strategy for the next meeting? Would you do that? I'm thinking if you came up with a document with headings and things on, comes to the next meeting, and we go through each thing and discuss the merits of whether we should be doing that, or then we've actually got some points and we can have some structure to work through. Because we do want to do this, I believe.
I'm not clear what is needed. I think we've got to have an overall aim. What's the strategy attempting to do? Is it to say, this is what we need to look at, or this is what we need, or is it more overarching than that? I'm happy to do some, well, we're doing work on it, but I need to have some guidance from the committee as to what they want. I'm not certainly not clear.
I don't think any of us are.
No, I think if I could just chip in, perhaps it probably doesn't need to be all that prescriptive, some basic principles. Yeah, and I think that approach is probably a sensible one, because it's something that you can just then build on with the action plan, which doesn't limit you to.
If that's the case, then I'm just looking at that.
Okay, great. So we're happy for that to come back to the next meeting. And as Carol mentioned earlier, if we had a full agenda, there would be quite a lot. So I do think we would need to have a time limit on it. But I don't know whether you all agree that we should look at this every meeting as a transportation thing rather than quarterly. Yeah. Carol, what do you think?
We've always had that. In fact, I've walked up cycling many a times under that heading. So
Yes, but it's always been dismissed, I feel, because it hasn't been, we haven't had the mechanics, we haven't had the mechanism. We haven't had the mechanism to discuss it, I think. You know.
Yeah, okay.
But it hasn't got us anywhere, has it?
What I'd like to see in it is actions, and then people reporting back on the actions.
Yeah.
You know, that's the whole point of having meetings, isn't it? We don't come here to sort of, you know, exercise our lungs. It's to agree stuff to do, set some actions, set some times against it, and then hold people accountable for what they have and haven't done. you know?
Okay.
And if councillors are uncomfortable with that, they shouldn't be councillors.
Right, I'm going to move on to item B, which is general transportation methods. I'm ignoring the words including cycling. Anything got anybody else on that? Okay. Drew mentioned about a footpath, corner of Beechwood Avenue. You said there was a dodgy footpath.
Oh, it's not the footpath, it's actually the pavement, because you come around the corner past the nail bar. And I only noticed this when my dad was in a wheelchair, and absolutely terrifying it was going around that corner. And then, again.
There's a lot of them in Woodley like that.
I think probably the best thing is just to put it on Fix My Street, report it on that. I reported the bit in Antrim Road, and it was done very quickly.
Yeah, but Telford Crescent, I mean, where I live, Telford Crescent is notorious for that anyway, so, you know.
Yeah, I think we should direct people on to Fix My Street or working the website.
I've been asked over to it in my wheelchair. Go on now.
Because we should follow up. Well, I'll come and see you, Linda. We get that sorted.
But again, you know, the point you make on access for people with disabilities, I mean, that is something, again, that should be sitting with us, shouldn't it? In the same way that you know, if you're talking about active travel, I mean, if you can't actually negotiate your way along some of our pavements, you know, that's pretty critical. And it's another interest group that needs to be represented sort of discreetly.
Yes, and
Because otherwise you get lost.
and it's because of, well, some of it is because the number of times the footpaths have been dug up, put down again, dug up, put down again. I mean, recently we had the cable put in, okay, and the section of my footpath to the junction box was dug up 6 times. About 6 times.
And it's all again, you know, the thing that we did at the last meeting, you know, our response about the ticket office things, it's all, again, they're taking away people from the ticket office, but they're not replacing, you know, the tech or anything to help, you know, disabled people or different disabilities to cope with that. And so that's why you have to have these sort of strategies, and you have to actively pursue it, because nothing gets done unless you make it first, unfortunately. Anyway.
Right, moving on. Item 9. Statement of community engagement consultation. Consider Wokingham Borough Council's statement of community engagement consultation, which is Appendix 9A. Page 34, response on the council's behalf. Anybody got something? Carol, please.
Yeah, page 40, yes, page 42.
42.
3.9.
3.9. Yeah.
It's talking about, yes, sustainability appraisal. I was looking through it, I know it's probably a bit of detail, but I'm concerned with development if the impact of pollution to watercourses isn't taken into account. We've had the recent news about there not being such a stringent control over this with developers. But I'd like to see, I think that should be of concern to us and to Woking Borough, and in some way make sure that in producing these plans, that we talk about the impact of pollution on our watercourses, and we make sure the developers know, their responsibilities and what we would expect them to do.
Thank you. Anybody else got anything?
Sorry.
Give your own buzzer.
I think, what we should be doing is supporting, the town council should be supporting this statement, because, its aims are good, which is to consult with residents and interested parties on planning matters, and also to encourage people to get kind of involved in looking at planning issues before they become an issue. And I think we need to bear in mind that this document is going to provide the framework, presumably, for the consultation we're going to have on the borough's local plan, which, looking on the website, appears to be going to be sent out to us for consultation at the end of the autumn, it said. I don't know whether officers are aware.
I don't know when.
But that's what they're saying, and that's for us. I think it's going to be quite critical that we get involved in that. So this looks a good sort of framework to do that in. I had some specific things, as Carol has too. On paragraph 2, it talks about increasing reliance on the planning process on digital technology, and specifically in 2.9 it says we recognise there are potential disadvantages with relying entirely on digital technology. These include excluding those who do not have access to it, and that it relies on people visiting websites and clicking links, which will only do if they already have an interest, and then it's silent. So I would like to see from the Borough Council a strong statement on how they're going to mitigate this. The fact that there are people who do not have access to digital technology, and elsewhere in the document they're talking about specific things, issues, but they refer to the fact that we can promote use of the internet app libraries. And publicise that people can go to the library to get access to these things. So a lot of consultations that have been going out recently, you kind of really need to have access to a computer to do things. And I think they should be looking at things like encouraging towns, parish councils to put up notices. We've got 9 notice boards, I think. People bump things up on a notice board, I guess, but it's just again, it's excluding a group of people, and we haven't offered an alternative. So I would like us to flag that with them, say, can you come up with something, some suggestions here about how we mitigate that, because it's not fair not to do that. And then there is some specific things around the planning application section. So I'd like to see in the statement more information or links out around what permitted development is.
Which paragraph?
That's 7.3 and 7.4 prior approval. So what exactly is covered by that? Because it says, there's some stuff that is covered by prior approval. I think we need to be a bit more specific. So, for example, we've discovered, in the last couple of months, that these telecoms masts require approval, the process is different, how you register your disapproval or disagreement with it is different. So I think that needs to be, if nothing else, we need the link out to explain what sort of stuff is covered by prior approval. And you know, there's definitely stuff on the government website. I think there's probably stuff on the Borough Council site too. It just needs a link in this document out, you know, to tell us how that works. And again, I was saying to you as well about Keith discovered we can't list the telecoms mast things because there's prior approval. So therefore, you know, residents will not get the chance to rock up in person to the Borough Council and express their views. So people need to be, you know, aware of this and understand how that works. There's also para 7.25 notes that some planning applications are determined by the Borough Council's planning committee rather than the officers. I'd like to see a statement of what the criteria are governing, you know, what goes to the full planning committee. And also there should be an explanation in there about the listing process because people aren't necessarily aware that that even exists. Just again, another bit of housekeeping, paragraphs 8.2 and 8.5 talk about the local planning enforcement plan. I think that, again, there should be a link in saying you shouldn't have to, you know, come out of that document, go and search for it, read it and come back. It doesn't help people understand it. I'll probably know Matthew of these.
I think the practical, if you could just make sure that.
Yeah. So that's just a bit of housekeeping, but as a document, it's really helpful. Again, it's getting out people to read it and understand how it works.
Thank you. And never apologise for speaking. Everyone's got the right to speak, everyone's got the right to be heard. And usually, oh, you do go on a bit, but you know, but usually you've got something very interesting to say. So thank you very much. Matthew, have you got all those? You got those points? Anyone else? Anything you want to add on to those? So, yes. Linda.
The digital and online technology, I think we ought to be considering how we can make it more accessible in the evenings, the evenings up to 10 o'clock, maybe having, you know, a what's it, cafe or something, for people that don't have the availability at home.
Oh, an internet cafe. So the library's hours are limiting people's access to that. Okay.
Okay, because there are still people that don't have or can't afford to have that sort of technology at home and in their own house. And we ought to be thinking of, you know, how are we going to engage?
I did once as chief executive working by the council a few years ago. One of my elderly clients had a leaflet through the door and it said, please scan this QR code. They haven't even got a phone, you know, let alone know what a QR code is. And my points were noted. So can we say then, we support this document, subject to those points that Matthew's written down? Okay? Excellent, good, thank you very much. Right, community speed watch, David's not here. June, briefly, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't know how we're getting on with whether the kit works.
Yes, so I have an update. So the camera works absolutely fine, no problems. We have a card reader that enables the card to pop out of the machine and you can put that into a laptop and read it with anything. So that camera is ready and good to go. It's a slight issue. We may have a need to purchase another stand for it, a tripod, because the existing tripod is not to be seen anywhere. Let's not worry about what that is.
So we can.
Well, that's brilliant. We were writing off thousands of quid worth of cameras a few meetings ago.
So the camera works absolutely fine. It immediately works. It was not an issue at all. The data logger, which is not needed for the Speedwatch activities, is purely, as has been mentioned many times before, a method for us if we've had requests coming in to put the data up and over a period of time work out the speed of traffic and be able to say based on the data it suggests that yes they're speeding at this time, or do you know what, there's never speeding. This expensive piece of equipment would be really good to get it to work. I have not been able to get it to work, but I have engaged in conversations with a company called Tagmaster UK, that are the company that bought out the company that we bought the data log from. Their tech team are very much helping me at the moment. We believe there's either an issue with the battery or there may be an issue with the USB port on the machine itself. I will work with them, continue to work with them to try and resolve that. There will be a
But
way
we
of
don't
resolving
need
it.
that data
You
logger.
do not need that to undertake any of the actual action itself. What needs to happen in theory moving forward, so Councillor Baker came and had a chat with me, is come up with a quick little project plan which sets out what needs to happen to move forward. The equipment that we've got, we need to check that we've definitely got documents that clearly say how you use it with the equipment that we have. We also need a list of guidelines and criteria for people that wish to put forward a location, so residents putting forward a location, which will be based on the Thames Valley Police's criteria for allowing us to do that. We will then hopefully develop an online form for residents to be able to highlight a location, which will link to the criteria and given that guidance.
Printed copies will be available.
Which will come to us and enable us to then that will go to a Speedwatch email, which will go through to whoever needs to manage that, whichever councillor. And that will enable us to then start looking at locations and things like that. And having spoken with Councillor Bragg, he believes at that point, we will then be able to go back out and look for volunteers because we will have that plan in place to go, we can do this now, we're getting suggestions in, we have the equipment, we know how to use it, bang, we can do it.
That was my next question, thank you.
So good. That is on my radar to do in the next 4 weeks for the next planning meeting. Hopefully that project plan will be, it's on my whiteboard. So I'm hoping we'll be at that point by then.
That's exciting.
If you need any help, do give us a shout, because I know we'll have to learn how to use the kit, because I mean, the thing I've used so far is like hair drying, and it's like not very complicated.
This is relatively easy. You put it up and press the on button. And then look at the camera, and we can then export the videos. What it does is it captures 10 seconds of footage if a vehicle is caught going over the prescribed limit. So actually, that can all be downloaded afterwards and actually gives you the image of all of them. So
I think they keep we're not changing the rules, but it's quite, people give them quite a bit of leeway before you have to report it. And a lot of it is now, they've gone back to pushing stuff manually on a spreadsheet. Okay. But I think we don't have to over-engineer the beginning of it because to some extent, if people have said, oh, we think people are racing up down our road, there's no harm with those, but as long as we've located a safe place to do it and got that proof.
Just being up there.
Yeah.
Rocking up there. And certainly I was talking to one of my colleagues who does the on the Whitegate one, and they said, they've been out and people are adamant, we've got speeding and they've gone out several times. You haven't. And but people like to be, that proved to them and that somebody's listened and you've got to object to it and people are it. So, it's we don't necessarily always have to have 100% evidence that they're speeding. If people are told that it's an issue, it's an hour of your time, it's not.
Seem to be doing something.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Right.
Okay, good, thank you very much. That's good, positive stuff. Right, item 11, community issues. Discuss and consider any recently community issues noted by members we haven't already discussed or noted. No? Okay, highways issues. I've done quite a bit on highways. Okay. Publications information, note receipt of the following items: Meet 2 Club, the August newsletter, and the CCB e-bulletin for September. Noted those. 14 future agenda items. Well, we've mentioned that we'd like the cycling on the October meeting, golly. Anybody got anything else for the October meeting? No? Okay. Publicity website. Anything new for that?
Cycling strategy.
Well, yeah, when we got it, we get it on. Okay, enforcement issues. To note the enforcement issue, to note the enforcement notifications listed on page 59, appendix 16A. Manic Way driveway not in accordance with approved plan. And Western Avenue, large extension involving disturbance of asbestos roof. And B, to note enforcement case closures listed. Matthew, there's some of these are really old.
So what I have learned, having checked since the last meeting, is that historical notice, Woking Borough Council doing work, basically trying to update their system so it has all notices, including historic notices. So when they come across an old one, they are putting it on. It comes up on the report of closures that comes to this council. So the historic are simply just them updating their database.
Do we need to be told?
The closures comes through on a list to me, and I merely transfer them across, so you've got them all. But if you wish for me to make a judgment that historical records can be ignored, I'm more than happy to do such.
Well, I think we just, I would leave them, just because it's quite interesting to see what sort of stuff is coming up under enforcement. I would, now that we're dreaming of drawing in, suggest you will have a look at the local planning enforcement plan on the Borough Council site, and depressing reading it is too. Essentially,
And you want to still read it?
essentially, it's people have done stuff without applying for planning permission, and somebody's going to have a look at it, and indeed they haven't broken some rules, but it's just a bit too much trouble to ask them to put it right. And it's all discretionary, and it seems a bit of a rogue's charter to me, but there we are. That's the law. I'll have a look at it.
Thank you. Right, well, okay, 8:56, I think we're ending the meeting there. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming this evening.